Whew. Yes, we're still in the summer blockbuster season because, man, it's hot outside. And today I just woke up very early just to catch up the latest movie that I was anticipating. And no, it's not Despicable Me 4. I'm talking about Maxxxine, the third and final movie of the X trilogy made by Ty West. And, what was it? It was like I think it was two. Yeah, it was kind of like 2 years ago since we kickstarted that trilogy with Ty West in the directing chair. Mia Goth it was the producer of those ones, and well, it was about time that we got into that moment. I was really kind of like anticipating this movie, considering that, well, I did talk about it at the other movie, but as a quick recap, I do have to admit that this trilogy made kind of like a turn up for me on my on how I view Ty West as a director. In which, again, recapping quickly, I had a bad impression on him because the first things that I saw from him I didn't like. But then after watching X, it was like, hey, you know what? This guy has it. And then Pearl kind of improved that, and now we got Maxxxine, which is again the final movie of the trilogy that he wanted to make, involving these characters, the characters from that trilogy, and he did wanted to say kind of like this story that, well, let's say that it comes from the movie separates into, well, the main movie, the prequel movie, and Maxxxine counts as the sequel movie. So it's kind of like, I will say that it's kind of like an interesting set of well, chronological order that he just decided to go on with these kind of movies to make it into a trilogy. And I will say, there's not much that I remember from at least X. Although I do remember that I did like it. It was a slasher film that it was a fresh of breath air that we don't get these kind of movies nowadays. Because nowadays the mainstream movie wants to keep it as clean as possible, but it has been proven that, especially in the horror genre, that when you don't show your restraints, then it will come off as a movie that is either decent or really good. I gotta admit, I just kept watching the trailers from that of upcoming movies that are coming this year, and some of them I gotta say I'm anticipating. But back to X. If you remember, X as far as I can remember, it's about a group of people who wants to film porn, their own porn, because they just want to make it big on the porn industry. And then they go to a barn and they stumble with this crazy couple. Let's say that they're kind of like jealous of that, and then it turns into a kind of like a pseudo chainsaw massacre thing. I'm not gonna say a lot because it is up to you to find out. But Pearl is the prequel movie about the villain of the last movie, and it was kind of like a more interesting study about the psychology of a character that goes mentally insane, and then it kind of leads to her downfall. And in itself, Pearl can even be its own movie. It can be its own standalone. And but man, that all those two movies, what made the biggest impact of that it showcased the acting chops of Mia Goth. She was, in those two movies, she was really good, especially when she played the young Pearl in the Pearl movie. and she was. I remember that she gave one of the best and scariest performances that year gave us. And now we are here with Maxxxine, which is the sequel of X, and it showcases the main protagonist of X and the only survivor of that movie. Man, whoops! I think I kind of spoil it, but doesn't matter. Well, the movie actually technically said so. So X, like I said, it follows the main protagonist from X and the survivor, which is the character Maxxxine Mix, also played by Mia Goth. So yeah, Mia Goth played a dual role on X, if you can remember. So, but anyway, I was getting ahead telling my background on the X trilogy of Ty West. So I finally saw it, and my God, I gotta give it respects, because I will say this: thanks to this movie, we finally, for a long time, we have a very solid trilogy. That with this one now out, this trilogy is complete, and it was really solid. I really came out liking this. But if I have to compare to as a standalone movie, this one is probably one of the weakest of the three of them. But that's not saying much, because it's still really good. It's still really good. It has some flaws here and there that makes it a little bit less memorable than the other ones. But still, I'm happy to say that I came out enjoying this film for what it is, and it showcased some solid things, and you can tell that they were careful on building this small world in the world of the X films, and it showcased its themes, it showcased the characters, and this one, it really puts a solid cap on it. So, and if anyone hears me, please, Ty West, don't make any more sequels. Don't make any more X movies, because these three, they stand alone in its own. So with that said, let's talk about it. So, like I said, the movie takes place I think it was, I don't remember how many years it has been. I think it was 1 or 2. I think it was kind of like a year. It takes place a year. Let me check if the IMDb recap's telling me. Well, it doesn't say exactly, but it takes place in 1985. And we follow the survivor of the first movie, Maxxxine. She's still trying to go big on the acting business, and in this movie, she just wants to get the opportunity of a lifetime, and she wants to break through from acting from porn. Now she wants to act on, in this case, horror movies. And she gets kind of like this big break when she's casted to participate in a movie that is a sequel. I think it was the Advocate 2 or something like that. You know what? I kind of forgot what was the name. You know what? I'll put it here. I'll put it here. It was the Advocate. I think it was the Advocate. I don't remember, but it's a sequel. So she's gonna do her best, to take this big break. But unfortunately, there are things that are, were obstructing with her life. For one, she still has a little bit of PTSD from the events of the last movie. So so this is why she's untrustful to people. She's kind of like a woman that she goes on her own, and for most of the time she goes around with a gun. She becomes kind of like she doesn't show it too much. She shows that she is very alert, but you can tell that she does suffer a post-traumatic syndrome after the events of the last movie. This additionally, there is a serial killer on the loose, and somehow there is connections to her, and apparently she's been stalked by a killer, and apparently this killer is technically targeting young female actresses. That's from what I can learn. But to make things rather a little bit, how can I say, kind of a little bit connecting to real life issues, those murders are being connected to the real serial killer who is known as the Night Stalker. For those who doesn't know, during 1984 or 1985, there was this big commotion in California. I think it was in California, where they've been having this series of events of serial murders. And since most of the killings happened during the afternoon, this is why it was kind of like a big news all over the place, and the killer was dubbed the Night Stalker. Eventually, the guy got arrested and put on death row, even though he died before execution. That's the little history lesson that I can give you to give you into perspective of what of the movie trying to capture the uneasiness to have this serial killer roaming around. But at the same time, it also has a little bit of the themes that Censor had. If you remember, Censor was this British movie that I really love about the problem, when the video nasties came in Britain and everyone was up and wild. In that case, it was our main character Maxxxine is also trying to go through the controversies that many people are linking the murders with violence on horror and music, and they kind of find out those as the biggest scapegoats, to the point that Hollywood also had to deal with people protesting. You see them, having going in the street protesting, saying that, for example, the satanic is not. Is nothing to be entertained. Serial killing is not entertaining, and so on, so on. So, and there were people even scapegoating it because they link horror movies and all of these things to the occult, to Satanism. These are some of the things that our main protagonist is going through. But still, it builds up into the story in which, well, she deals with all those things. She has to deal with the killer stalking her, and some people that she knows. Even the detectives are suspicious of her because she's been targeted. And Maxxxine knows that she's been targeted mostly because she's been getting threats that she by seeing videos of. There was kind of like a video of if I remember, she received a video from what happened on the barn on the X movie. We also see clips of X. That's the least I could say. But I think I went a little bit too long with the synopsis. But I will say that this is a little bit where the movie kind of a little bit falters, in which it kind of begs you a little bit too much. It has too much information that you have to kind of like process through, and the only way you can escape that is for either you are very invested to the whole lore of the X trilogy. And this movie it also helps that you have to watch all those two movies to to get understanding of what is going on. Yes, I said the two of them, even Pearl, because this is the kind of like the interesting contrast that this movie has, is that both Maxxxine and Pearl, they're kind of like both the yin and the yang. We have one woman who she kind of failed to become an actress. And while Maxine, she's doing her best, and she gets kind of like a big breakthrough, and she's kind of successful, I'll say. Uh, uh, so basically, that's kind of like the interesting contrast. I'll get to that a little bit later, maybe if I remember. But let's go a little bit again with the acting, in which most of the acting is really solid. I'm not gonna say exactly, all the ones, all the characters, because everyone is doing their part really very magnificently. But I will say special mention to, again, Mia Goth, that she does really good. She is really good on her acting. She still shows her chops. She's by far one of the best actresses that I have seen of this current generation. Let's see how. I don't know if there's gonna be a moment in which she will falter in a movie or something like that. But hey, we're a human. But for the time being, all three movies, this is technically her best performances. I don't remember if she did in other movies, but I will say this, that as far as it goes, I think she did Pearl better. Although as Maxine, you can tell that she plays kind of like a more traditional protagonist in these kind of movies. But either side, you buy the character. You buy that the character have to go through all these things. She's very defensive, but at the same time very ambitious. She wants to make it big on acting, especially. And you also see that if you remember from the other movie, she comes from a kind of like let's say harsh environment. In the first movie, it did showcase that she was a runaway daughter of this religious preacher. I'll leave it at that. Which again, it makes contrast with Pearl, who Pearl also was raised by an overly religious family. And but basically, Maxine has to go through all these things, and at the same time battling, her post-traumatic syndrome. But the other character that we see is kind of like her boyfriends, some of the actors, the director of the movie that she goes with it. She also have kind of like a partnership with her agent, and she also is a little bit kind of like untrustful with the detective who are on the case of these serial killing that is happening. But at the same time, there's also one actor who also have to make a special mention, and that actor is, I think they put him because they did wanted a big name actor in it, and that big name actor is Kevin Bacon. So yeah, Kevin Bacon is in this movie, and he plays kind of like this hitman. And well, I will say Kevin Bacon does his job. He does a good job. A little bit too much. Although the way he looks with the mustache and all this stuff, I think that he kind of plays almost like an evil Gary Oldman. But that's kind of like the best way I can describe to that. Oh yeah, and also we get there is also an actor which I will not reveal as just in case. Although it becomes like a little bit obvious, I will say that. But there is one actor that he chews the scenery. That guy overacts. And Yeah, there is one actor who really overacts. I'm not gonna say who it is, but once this guy begins to act, it's so cartoonish that it brings the ham level to the maximum. And this is coming from me kind of praising the movie from good acting. I'll leave it at that at the moment. What else I can say? That's all I can say about most of the actors. All right, let's continue on. There's the cinematography, which is again it's well done, and it flows a little bit fine for its 1 hour 40 minutes. It kind of comes also kind of like in a moment in which you think that everything ends, but then then we get to the climax, which is well shot. It's well done. I like that movie doesn't get a little bit overambitious with the camera, and they just go let's film a movie and we don't have to get overambitious. Although there are some moments in which we have to deal with the flashback and a few scenes that could say that maybe this moment should have been a little bit short. Oh, but I do warn you that there is a moment where they go to a nightclub and it has flashing lights. So I kind of give you this warning because it has a little bit of epilepsy warning. There is, and as far as violence go, it's not kind of like the biggest violent movie that there is. It's not like Maxxxine that is shockingly horrific, or there's kind of like some horrific blood moments like X. This movie doesn't do that, but the moments that it shows, it kind of shows. For one thing, you do see the corpses that are mutilated, and they made a good job with it. There's also one of the key features that the dead people have is that they're all branded with a pentagram. And I'll leave it like that just in case. But it does have, but there's its moment that it does show kind of like its gore factor. Luckily, of course, that's not abusive, but well, it shows kind of like its restraint here and there. But still. I was saving this because this movie actually has a very, very big memorable moment, and that moment, it made me wince. I'm not gonna lie. When I saw that moment, it made me like, oh no! For the moment, I will not reveal exactly what happened, but I will say that if there's an award for what happened, this movie receives the Golden Award for the worst thing it can happen on screen to a man's genitalia. I will leave it like that. My God, this moment, it was amazing, but man, my poor, as a man, I cannot describe. Oh my God, that's the best way I can describe it. You know what? Let's move on before I keep thinking more about that thing. But yeah, that's pretty much the whole thing that it is. As for the theme, I think I already covered too much about it, because not only is just kind of like a character of Maxxxine showcasing being the antithesis of Pearl, but it also kind of like showcased, there's religious scenes, socio-political scenes concerning the movie industry. There is, the paranoia that people begins to blame, the entertainment industry for the things that are happening in real life, and and becoming and becoming worse concerning the paranoia of a scary event. Like in this case, they used the Night Stalker for people going on saying that this is the reason why serial killers are happening or something like that. And truth to be told, it's not exactly necessary. I mean, I know that the media can be too influential. I'm not gonna deny that, but it's mostly kind of like 10% of the cases that or a little bit more, a little bit less for if that happens. But honestly, killings kind of like happen, ever since the dawn of humanity. If you pay attention to history, it doesn't necessarily have to be the media. It's just that when the media becomes a little bit more open to know that things are happening like that. So, but that's just me reflecting on the whole thing. And it was 1985. People's mentality were a little bit too fixated on trying to build the nuclear family, and sometimes being overly conservative under religious beliefs, to the point that when they see something wrong, they just brand it as satanic. Yeah, that's the small things that I could say regarding the themes, and then of course we got and probably this trilogy is what it was trying to build up, and at the same time it doesn't preach you for on showing the message. It kind of leaves you into interpretation, and it built up it really well. So honestly, I think I could capped out a little bit here from the whole Maxxxine movie. So do I recommend this movie? Absolutely. But before you watch Maxxxine, go watch X and Pearl before you do it, or else you're gonna get lost. And considering that this is Francine, Maxxxine, what we're talking about. It's the X trilogy. This is a trilogy that was made to be like that. Even though I will say that this is kind of like a little bit the crutch of this movie, considering that X and Pearl can be even treated as standalones, but this one feels a little bit too dependent of that. It's the weakest of the trilogy for its own reason, but still is strong enough to make this kind of like a really recent, how can I say, a really solid trilogy. So I gotta say, check it out.